Hi, and welcome to Old School Blues Guitar. It is time for the acoustic lesson for the months of January to March 2017. And I've got a song that I've been meaning to do a lesson on for a couple months now, and I just keep putting it off. It's called Old Country Rock. It's an instrumental by a guy named William Moore, and it was recorded in the late 1920s, 1928, 29, I believe, making it one of the oldest known recorded guitar instrumentals of all time. It's also kind of a country blues classic. Now, listening to the song, parts of it are pretty easy to figure out, where other parts are not so easy to figure out, at least for me. And I originally learned a version by Stefan Grossman off of one of his instructional videos, and then I came to find out that his version's different. It's his version. It's different from the original version. So in this video, I'm going to try my best to teach and figure out the original Old Country Rock. And I'm sure there are parts that I don't have correct. If anyone else can figure it out and teach it, do it. Make a video, send me some information, post something. That's really what this YouTube channel is for. So starting out, we've got our guitar, and it's tuned to a drop D tuning. So what you're going to do is take your low E string, your 6th string, and tune it to a D as in dog. So your 4th string and your 6th string are the same. It's called drop D tuning, and it's pretty common in country blues. And Blind Blake used it, Bo Carter used it, lots of guys, I think Bo Carter used it, Tommy Johnson used it, there were others. So anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is show you the chords, and if you're just getting started into this kind of guitar playing, this is a good song to start messing around with. It's got some parts that are a little complicated, but there's easy ways to play it, and it's approachable. It's something you can figure out. So starting out, the chords, you just need a basic D chord, which is our standard first position cowboy chord D. So you should know this one. If you don't know this one, check the diagram, and it's a D. Pretty standard chord. And then a G7th. When you play Old Country Rock, you're going to make a G7th like this. And you're going to do some stuff with this position. I've got my pinky on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and I'm using my 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. It's really important that you do that way. Play the chord this way, because you're going to be using your 1st finger to do some stuff. You need it free for that. Then A chord, first position A. So that's another pretty simple chord, and you're going to play it, I think, with the finger flattened like this. This is how I do Old Country Rock. You can play this A chord some different ways, but that's the way I use it in this song. Then there's an E7th, which you're going to play like this, but it's important when you play the E7th that you don't hit the open 6th string, because it is no longer tuned to an E. It is now a D. You can hear it doesn't sound so good. So when we play the E7th, I'll show you it's really important that you don't hit the open 6th. So I've got my 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 3rd string. 2nd finger is getting both the 5th and 6th strings, or 4th and 5th strings at the 2nd fret. And then my pinky is on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And I've got an E7. And so as far as chords go, those are the main chords that you're going to be using in Old Country Rock. A lot of the licks you're going to play are going to be played out of these chord positions. The alternating bass in this song, as I go through the different parts, I'm going to break it down into playing over the 1, over the 4, and then there's kind of a chord change part to go from the 5 and get back to the 1 again. And I'll show you that. And there's also kind of a solo verse and some little things in between. So let's start off with the main lick of the song, Old Country Rock. And I'm just going to play it the way I play it from the beginning, which is as close as I'm trying to figure out how the original went. Something like this. a couple of verses, and that's really what he plays throughout most of the song, and he does a lot of little variations on this. So what I'm going to do is kind of teach it each part, and then we can put it all together at the end. So the first thing, he's going to slide. Sounds to me like he's going from the third. He's going to slide from the third to the fifth fret on the first string. And then he's going to come in with the alternating bass, 6 and 4. And they're both open, so it's throughout the song, whenever you play over the 1, you're really just playing the alternating bass on the 6th string and the 4th string open strings. And then the treble parts, you're going to go, and I'm just holding the 5th fret of the 1st string. I'm playing something like that. If you listen to the original tune, he does variations on the pattern for this part. But basically I'm sliding, and then I'm coming in with the alternating bass, something like that. And the pinching, if you're playing the alternating bass guitar, one thing to really pay attention to is when you're pinching with your thumb and your first finger, 2 notes at the same time. So this first slide, and then I'm going to slide, and then I'm going to pinch the open 6th string with the 1st string, which is now fretted at the 5th string, so like this. I'm getting a little bit of the open 2nd there. That's kind of hard not to do. So let's walk through that first part real slow. So that's what you're playing. And then he's going to do this little bend with the 2nd finger, 6th fret of the 2nd string. And you're doing this while you're playing the bass. So when you bend this, you're keeping the alternating bass going. And this is where he does a lot of different patterns. The easiest thing to do is just do something like this to start out with. So I'm bending, 2nd string at the 6th fret, and then picking the 5th fret of the 1st string. So let's do it that way first. And then he does a lot of variations on that. Sometimes he does this. So that time I'm bending, 5th fret, 1st string to the 7th fret of the 1st string. Something like that. Let's play that one. And then other times he'll do something like this. He'll do one of each. So it's. So let me do that in context. Hear the variation. And then my favorite is when he does this little pause. So he does something like this. Whoops, let me try that again. And he does this little pause, bending up that 2nd string, 6th fret, and holding it. And then he's going to go into the 4 part, which we're going to work on in a minute. So when you're playing the verses, a lot of times you're starting out with this. That kind of line. And you just, if you listen to the original tune, I don't have tab for this lesson. Maybe I'll tab out those parts, but follow the lesson, you won't need the tab. But you can see, listen to the variations. He's doing the same position, but just doing something a little different each time through. So let's play that one more time, slowly. And that's what he's playing in the verses over the 1. Now, when he goes to the... So let's call this a section and work on that. Once you get that part down, then you can move on to the 4, which is a little more complicated. Now, welcome back to Old School Blues Guitar. We are working on William Moore's great acoustic instrumental, Old Country Rock, from the late 1920s, 1928, 29, somewhere in that ballpark. In the first part of the lesson, I showed you the chords that you need for the song, And I explained what he plays in most of the verses over the 1, which is a D. Remember, we're in drop D tuning, where our low E string, our 6th string, is tuned to a low, or to a D, like dog. Now when the song goes to the 4, this is probably, to me, this is the hardest part of this thing, and I'm still working on this. I can't quite hear what exactly is going on in many of the verses with this. But basically it starts out, so the 1 part, and now he's going to this G chord. And what I've got to have is my 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string and my pinky on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. It's got to be a pretty quick switch, so that first part, you're just going to pinch. You're going to pinch the 5th string and the 1st string. And then come down. Your alternating bass for this chord is going to be 5, 4. Like that. So when you come from the 1, that's the first part. And my 1st finger, I'm just picking the 1st and 2nd strings and keeping the alternating bass going. So try to see where my thumb hits the 5th string and when it hits the 6th string. So that's the first part of this. Really good thing to do is just try to get the melody, the treble part, and make sure you get that, and then just try to play it and figure out where you pinch and where you play notes, the bass notes and the treble notes together. I learned this song, again, by watching a Stefan Grossman video, and I just messed around with it. And then I started listening to the original, and that's a little trickier, but it's still the same basic ideas. Now this part, it's hard to hear what the melody is. Let me just play the whole part completely. Something like this. So it's without the bass. And what I hear, listening to this again and again, is he does something like this. Kind of the twice on the open E string. It's like in this tune, when you've got a D chord, you can just take the thing off and just play the open strings. There's quite a few times where he picks this D chord up, plays the open strings, and puts it back down. So this part, I'm taking my 1st finger while still in that position, and I'm going open 1st string, 1st fret of the 1st string, and then 2nd string with my pinky fretting the 3rd fret. So that kind of thing. It's hard to slow this down and play it. Let's keep going. Now this part, the more I listen to it, I hear picking twice on the open 2nd string. So it's like this. That's what I'm hearing, and all I'm doing is picking that twice and then coming down with the D while keeping the bass going. Now the easy way to play it would just be to play that once, like this. But if you listen to the original, I really think he's playing it twice. G shape. Lifting the D chord and putting it back down. So basically what you've got is the second fret of the third string, open second string, D chord, or picking up on the second and third strings with my ring finger in the D position on the third fret of the second string. This part's just got to listen to it and try to figure it out, but that's what I'm hearing, something like this. Always played it is the simple way. You can do that and it sounds good. It's a cool song. But if you want to play the original, it's got that little rhythmic hiccup in it. And that's what he's playing. So the alternating bass out of that seventh chord, the G7, it's just the second or the fifth and the second strings. So there's the second kind of section of Old Country Rock, and he plays that part many times throughout the song. And he starts with the 1. Into the 4. And in the next part of this lesson, we'll take a look at what he's playing over the 5.